restaurant on Lexington in Roseville. Greg Bakun here. I love historic tours of Minneapolis and seeing everything it has to offer. But if you know me, I like to include a little spooky in my tours, which is why I found the perfect combination. Minneapolis Trolley Tours does this amazing candlelight ghost tour that you have to check out. It's an extremely immersive experience. It's a trolley trip that starts out at a haunted mansion, traveling around Minneapolis locations, exposing ghost stories that the public and business owners would rather left untold. Then a tour of the aforementioned haunted mansion where ghosts of past residents from the 1800s reside, plus a lot of surprises to discover. Next, experience Gertrude's After Hours. Did I mention Gertrude is the mansion's most famous ghost? Maybe she'll show up. And you finish up the tour at Gertrude's Lounge in the haunted basement of the mansion with refreshments and Q&A. The trolleys are climate controlled and the mansion is restored to perfection. Check out MinneapolisTrolleyTours.com for more information.
With a look at your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Tonight, partly cloudy with a low of 31, and then Thursday, sunshine with a high of 54. Heat up these cold nights with the hottest musical acts around at Crooner's Supper Club. Crooner's is located just north of I-694 off Highway 65 and Moore Lake Drive. Visit croonersmn.com to view their schedules and food menus.
Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host, guest, random reptoid, or chupacabra may not necessarily reflect those of AM 950 Radio, its affiliates, or its sponsors. Now, it's time to step into the unknown. There are things people experience but never talk about. A shadow moving in the corner, flickering of the lights, a disembodied voice. We invite you to talk with us. Share your story, share your experience, because this isn't just your story, this is our story. This is GhostBox Radio with Greg Bakun.
And this is GhostBox Radio on AM 950, where every night we talk about the paranormal, ufology, Bigfoot, and so much more. My name is Greg Bakun. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Before we get into our conversation, I just want to also shout out to Adam over at Eden Prairie tonight, doing the duty of the work at the station. How are you doing?
Doing well. Didn't get a chance to just step outside, though, this evening to see if I could see the northern lights like we could last night here in the cities.
Oh, yeah.
But otherwise, nice evening here at the station. Surprisingly enough, nothing happened. So for me, a quiet night for once here.
That's very nice. Now, that being said, how are you after Twin Cities Con? Have you are you back to normal? Are you tired, or what's going on?
It took about a day for me to get my voice actually back from talking to all the people who kept swinging by the table. But otherwise, I've been pretty good. I didn't catch the little head cold that you had caught at Twin Cities Con this year, which was nice. Just an extra day of throat lozenges, and then I was pretty good.
Oh, yeah. On Monday, I was, you could tell when you're starting to get older and doing these 3-day conventions that it really took a lot out of me. And I didn't think I was sick on Monday, but I was just exhausted and I needed to take a little bit of time. So luckily I was able to do that and get back to things. Now, I'm very excited about this. We had this plan for last week, and just, things happen and miscommunication and whatnot. And I just knew that we were going to get this rescheduled, and I was really excited about this because I really wanted to have this conversation. Pat Bussard O'Keefe has written a book called The Appalachian Granny Witch Magick, Magick and Musings of an Appalachian Mountain Witch. That whole area is so interesting to me, but also very unknown. I don't know a lot about it at all. I'm going to be very honest about it. And this book that she has written, and I'm going to let her explain the book here in a second. I think this is really a fantastic gateway, not only into this culture, but also into the magic part. And also what I really like about it too is the idea of this sort of like these gifts that are being passed down from generation to generation. What gifts am I talking about? We're going to talk about that right now as well. Pat, welcome to GhostBox Radio. Thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Well, thank you for the invitation, and I'm happy to be here.
You know what's really interesting about this, and this is what I wanted to kind of say real fast, is that because when you reached out to me, you and I have never met before, right? I mean, we've never spoken. The day before, I'm going all over the place because I really wanted to do a show about the Appalachian region. And I was looking for going to different places, looking to see where I can find a guest. The day before, and then the next day, you reached out to me and were like, you know what? Would you mind considering what I'm doing here? And when I read that, I'm like, absolutely. My gosh, this is exactly what I was looking for. Isn't that? I mean, I don't know. I mean, in the stuff that you're talking about that you can see around a few corners. I'm not, I just find that very fascinating. Let's put it that way.
Well, thank you. And I guess that's a good way to put it, looking around certain corners. Synchronicity just happens. I think that things fall into place. But yeah, I forget where I saw it. I think it was on Facebook. And I thought, I just need to reach out to him. I'm starting to advertise for the documentary I'm working on about Appalachian Granny Witches. And one of the things that I want to preface before we start getting some negative comments is that these women were called, what they called themselves were Appalachian Granny women, okay?
Sure.
They would have never accepted the title of witch because of the connotations that came with it. A lot of modern granny women like myself simply accept that because that's what other people would call us and still do call us. And you're right about gifts that are they are, through the bloodline of people. Yeah. And in some families, it's really interesting, especially in wart witching, what we call wart witching. And that's where my great granny was a wart witch. And I had a really large wart on my index finger. And she came and she said, "You want that wart off, Pat?" And I said, "Yes, ma'am, I do." I was about 5 years old. And she took a chicken bone and rubbed it on the wart and got down and said some words, right? And then that wart was gone in like a week. It had disappeared. But in some families, that gift is given from woman to man and man to woman. In my family, the gifts are passed down with the women of our family, and it's not, like some people believe, especially in wart witching, that you have to give that gift to the person that is either chosen or the oldest or however their family tradition does this, because it will change from mountaintop to mountaintop, right?
Yeah.
Because we were so geographically cut off from other people. It was a very lonely life for many women in these mountains and men. And again, in my family, it was simply the women who are born into our family are born with specific gifts.
What is it that makes that differentiation? As you mentioned, that it could go from women to men, men to women, but in the case of your family, women to women. Why is that with your family that it goes women to women? Any particular reason?
Well, I really do not know, except it's a tradition in our family. Plus, our gifts are not just wart witching. Like, people in my family are often gifted what we call the gift of second sight or clairvoyance. We may be clairaudient. My family in particular, I come from a long line of astral projectors. And of course, the U.S. Army, we all know about remote viewing, which is exactly what astral projection is. And then also powers, if you will, of healing using natural, whatever was around them, whatever was in season. They knew what to go out to harvest, to forage, to bring back and not only feed their families, but heal individuals in the families. So, and they were the midwives in the mountains. There were no doctors, and there's still today a lack of doctors in many areas in Appalachia, in the southern Appalachia region.
Now, writing this book, and once again, folks, the book is called Appalachian Granny Witch Magick, Magick and Musings of an Appalachian Mountain Witch. From what I've kind of did, minor research on, it sounds like in the area, the mountain folks were very private people. Doing a book like this, does this get looked down upon, or do people that know you, whatever, they're happy that you're sharing this information?
Well, I mean, amongst mountain people, most of this information is pretty well known, so it's not like big secrets. And what you're talking about is what they call closed practices, and those are usually related to, to a people. In our case, in a very, where we were cut off from the outside world. We worked with what we had, and we learned how to make that work for us. There's other areas, like voodoo is often considered a closed practice because of the people, whose religion, people just look at certain things and say, we're talking about magic. So just anybody can go and call up Baron Samadi and, as the intermediary between our world and the next, and ask for a favor. And that might not work for you. In fact, it may backfire on you. But I always say that if the magic works for you, then it was supposed to be yours to begin with.
Yes.
I do believe I'm a consulting hypnotist. I was trained through the National Guild of Hypnotists, and I've also taken forensic hypnosis, the course in that, because I focus on past life regression and memory retrieval. And so I truly believe in past lives. And I don't think we've all been male or female, because the human soul is energy. This is my outlook. I don't try to change anybody's opinion. So the human soul is energy. And the first law of thermodynamics says that you can neither, create nor destroy energy. It can only transform. And so I truly believe that when the body ceases to function, that energy, if you will, goes on and transforms into whatever it is, whatever the next step. Because, Shakespeare is right. It is the journey from which no one ever returns. When we truly go across that final line, if you will, where there's no coming back, we don't bring those secrets back to tell others.
Do you think along those lines then, because we're talking about like past life regression and other things where I think people generally think of time as linear. Do you see timelines as linear? Do you see them as more stacked?
This is interesting because I love the idea of string theory.
Yeah.
And where you pluck that string and it starts to vibrate, and you have strings, right, going back and forth, and they meet at a moment. And I will tell you, this is really interesting for me because this has happened a couple of times. One is I wrote about in my book, The Ghost of St. Albans Sanatorium. And I went there with two other people, and I was actually writing the book at the time. And we went up to the second floor, to the left, the building to the left. And we were going to what they called the bird cage. And the bird cage is an outside area, on the second floor, but they had to put wiring all around it because it wasn't a sanatorium, and they didn't want somebody throwing themselves off. So we went up, and all of a sudden it's really cold. It's 72 degrees outside. It is September, but it's very warm. And I have someone with me. Her name is Scarlett. And she said, Pat, she said, we can see our breath, and we could. All of a sudden, it was that cold.
Mhm.
And for some reason, I thought we are starting to experience a time slip. So I looked over to the right or to the left where the door was supposed to be to the hallway that takes you to the birdcage. It wasn't there. And
Oh.
have you ever had that moment when your mind just freezes? It's like it's
Yeah.
incomprehensible. So what I did, I went and actually put my hand on the wall and ran down the hallway, with my hand on the wall. Now, mark this, it is an old Victorian building.
Yep.
So the door frames are thick. There's no, and this is a large opening to go to the birdcage. And so I'm like, all right then. So we go into what they call the classroom, and we walk through that. As soon as we walked through the door, it was normal again, like the temperature was normal. And Scarlett, our little, thermometer, said, "It's warm, Pat." And I'm like, okay, the opening to the birdcage, the doorway to the birdcage is back. So I, kind of leaned out, and there it was. You could see that nice thick door frame, and I went running down there, and there it was. There it was, right where it should have been, right to the left of where we came up. And so I tried to get Scarlett and Megan to go down the hallway to the birdcage, and Scarlett said, "I am not going down there." She said, "What if it closes again?" And I'm like, well, good point. But the thing about that place, it wasn't just me. There was another team that I interviewed, and they were actually downstairs in the first building. And they were in a room, and it was a doctor. This is the team, a doctor, a nurse, and actually she was head of trauma for her hospital, and a librarian. So these are not people that would just arbitrarily say things. I do not believe.
Sure.
So they tried to get out of the room they were in. And when they went to get out, there was no door. There was no door. And
Wow.
so they actually put their hand on the wall and went around several times and started to panic. And all of a sudden, that door is there again. So it happens quite frequently. But this particular place, St. Albans Sanatorium, is on the banks of the New River. It's one of the oldest rivers in the world, and the only one that runs north, right?
Yep.
So we have the hydroelectric going in front of it, and it is built over limestone caverns, which is another conduit, if you will, for entities and ghosts to be able to manifest. And also, I truly feel that's why this particular location really doesn't go dead like some of them do after a while, like they're drained, right?
Yeah. I've only been to the outside of St. Albans. We went during the week, and we were just in the area. We were in Virginia, over at the Octagon Museum over there, which holds all the Civil War history stuff. I know we need to get to break, but because we're on the subject, I want to ask one last thing, or get your opinion at least, because there are so many times we're talking about timelines. We're talking about these hiccups. I would not put it past that stuff happens in our timeline that because it rewrites time, that we are not, it seems like it's been with us our whole life, but may have just been rewritten for all we know. Like there's suddenly something that all of a sudden what seems normal seems very off to me, like it's just like something's changed, even though on the surface of it, you can't see anything has changed, but something feels different now, and you can't put your finger on what it is. There isn't anything in peril. There isn't anything that is, that is alarming, but yet something has changed. And I've always theorized that could be, and maybe I haven't always theorized it. Maybe in the last 2 minutes I've started theorizing because my timeline had changed. But you know what I mean, though? It's just that whole thing of like, do you think that we are capable of detecting if our timeline changes?
This is interesting because there's some theories that says really think time is splintered, and we're
Yeah.
living 1,000 different or 1,000,000 or an infinite number of. I always equate it to like watching a movie and it's got multiple endings and they release that
Yeah.
with. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And would we know? My question would to that would be, it would be difficult for most people. I hate to say it, but they cut themselves off from that higher intuition, which
Yeah.
I truly believe is a connection to divine energy, to God.
Yes.
And but they're so afraid of it, and they've been told to be afraid of it. And think about it. If you were somebody, 200 years ago and you had the power of healing, I mean, the very people that you would have saved with that healing could be whipped into a froth by and I hate to say it, but the church, to end you, to literally burn you at the stake.
Yeah.
And this is what's interesting about being burnt at the stake in Europe, is that number one, they would tell the people, right, the peasants, they would say, we're doing this for her own good. Now, number two, okay, because we are cleansing her soul by burning the body. She is being cleansed and she will have a chance at heaven. So, yeah.
Yeah. Is that something? My gosh. Why don't we do this, Pat? Why don't we do this? Let's get a break in. Otherwise, we're just going to keep talking, and I'm going to get in a lot of trouble. So let's get a break in. I have a question in the comments that we're going to get to, and if anyone has any questions, we're going to be talking about a lot of things, and this is going to be a lot of fun, folks. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to GhostBox Radio on AM 950. Greg Bakun here. I love historic tours of Minneapolis and seeing everything it has to offer. But if you know me, I like to include a little spooky in my tours, which is why I found the perfect combination. Minneapolis Trolley Tours does this amazing candlelight ghost tour that you have to check out. It's an extremely immersive experience. It's a trolley trip that starts out at a haunted mansion, traveling around Minneapolis locations, exposing ghost stories that the public and business owners would rather left untold. Then a tour of the aforementioned haunted mansion where ghosts of past residents from the 1800s reside, plus a lot of surprises to discover. Next, experience Gertrude's After Hours. Did I mention Gertrude is the mansion's most famous ghost? Maybe she'll show up. And you finish up the tour at Gertrude's Lounge in the haunted basement of the mansion with refreshments and Q&A. The trolleys are climate controlled and the mansion is restored to perfection. Check out MinneapolisTrolleyTours.com for more information. Greg Bakun here. I've told you about the out-of-the-world roast beef sandwiches at Maverick's Real Roast Beef, but I haven't told you about their Philly steak sandwiches, turkey bacon avocado sandwich, BLT, crispy chicken, fish sandwiches, brisket, or pulled pork. Okay, you get the idea. They make a lot of delicious food to the same standard as their famous roast beef sandwiches, and now I'm starving. I'm going to go to Maverick's Real Roast Beef off Lexington and Roseville, and you need to go too. Check out their menu at mavericksbeef.com. Have you ever met someone who not only can help you on a deep spiritual level, but also potentially change your life? Refined Divine is an extremely gifted psychic medium who travels the nation and lives right here in the Midwest. And she offers mediumship, mentorship, house and business parties, energy healing, palm readings, and so much more. Refined Divine has helped thousands, and she can help you.
Hi, this is Psychic Medium Deb. I cannot wait to hear from you. You can go to refineddivinepsychic.com.
Greg Bakun here. It's nice to get out of the Twin Cities and take some travel excursion to some great locations. Minnesota has so much to offer, which is why I love traveling down to Wabasha and staying at the historic Anderson House Hotel. Opened in 1856, this beautiful hotel offers comfortable accommodations, has a delicious restaurant, and even a speakeasy in the basement to unwind with a drink. Located next to the Mississippi River and on Main Street, there is a lot of sightseeing and shopping to do too. To get more information, go to theandersonhousehotel.com. And tomorrow is the day that we are having our Anoka Public Paranormal Investigation. This is going to be happening in the basement of Divine Lights. I get a lot of people, especially over this weekend at Twin Cities Con, have a lot of people asking me, I love to investigate. I've always wanted to do this. I don't know how to do it on my own and all this stuff. And that's what we're here for. We're going to help. Join us for a 3-hour guided exploration into a location rich with energy, mystery, and history. This is more than a ghost hunt. It's an invitation to explore the layers of energy that linger long after time has moved on. We've done this now since July, and you can see how spirit is becoming more comfortable with us and coming out more and interacting more. And you really should give it a shot. We do this once a month. And you can go over to Charvinity on Facebook or charvinity.com. Look for the event. On Facebook, it's listed under the events, and go to the link and get a ticket. It's going to be great. Now, I am having this very fascinating and wonderful conversation with Pat Bussard O'Keefe. She's the author of Appalachian Granny Witch Magick, Magick and Musings of an Appalachian Mountain Witch. We haven't talked a ton about the book yet, but that's okay, because you need to just go get the book. You can get the book if you want to order it from your local bookseller to help keep them in business, or Barnes & Noble. As usual, we have an Amazon affiliated link over at GhostBoxRadio.com under GhostBox Book Club. You'll find it there. Use the Amazon affiliated link, and that helps GhostBox Radio directly. And I know that I hadn't done so yet. I was going to wait, but I think I'm going to get probably the paperback version of this, because I really want to take a read at it as well. And Pat, because we drifted into past lives and energy and stuff like that. Do you mind one more question on that subject? So Bruce in the comments has said, what's the best way for a novice individual that might be able to tap into their own past life?
All right. Remember when I said I liked the string theory, right? Yeah. As far as how we look at time. But I'm going to tell you what my theory is, okay? Yeah. And the reason I'm mentioning this is this, Bruce. The reason I'm mentioning this is because we're talking about past lives. I really feel that we have a lifetime, right? Where we are born, we learn or not, and then we come to the conclusion of that life, which is to pass from it, from the physical, in the physical sense. And then we move, and then we do it again. And if we haven't learned lessons from that last lifetime, we are doomed to repeat those, and then we do it again. You see what I'm saying? So it's both linear and it's also circular.
Yes.
And so I really feel like the Buddhists do, that our whole trek, if you will, is to move towards God, so that we do not have to come back and do this again, so that we learn the lessons that we should have learned. But Bruce's question is he's asking what a novice can do in order to learn more about their past lives.
Yes.
Bruce, this is telling me that you're probably aware that you have lived a past life. You probably may have had an experience where you have thoughts and images, memories, and it doesn't make sense because they aren't the memories from this particular lifetime. It may be that you just have a sense of it, or you have an obsession with a particular era. And, I've seen people, and this is interesting, I'm going to tell you, and I know I'm going woo-woo here for some folks, and that's just okay. But the reason I decided to get trained as a hypnotist and focus on past life regressions is one of the gifts I have is to be able to look at someone and see their past life. I know she won't mind me saying it, but there's this lovely woman. She's actually head of a paranormal team out of Charlotte, North Carolina. Her name's Tina McSwain. And we did a past life regression, and she found herself on a ship, and she was with her mother. And she started to describe it, and I thought, is this the Titanic? And then she described the dining room, and she said that there were pillars all over the dining room, and I knew that was not the Titanic.
Yeah.
And so I thought, this is the Lusitania. And so I looked up the Lusitania, and what she described that ship as was to a T. It was unreal. Not only that, but she, when she was in a state of hypnosis, said what her name was and what her mother's name was. Now, this is fascinating because we were able to look at the list of passengers, and she and her mother were on that ship, and she and her mother died on that ship. How interesting is that?
Yeah.
Now, what's even more interesting is that she the next morning is so interesting. Next morning, she received a call, and it was really early. Now, she and her mother, during that lifetime, were from Aberdeen, Scotland. The next morning, she got a phone call, and she was just tired. And so, you know how you'll do? You'll turn your phone over. And that's what she did. She ignored it.
Yep.
But when she got up, she turned the phone back over, and there was a telephone number, and right under it said Aberdeen, Scotland, which
wow.
is, I know, is that not amazing? It's almost like we send out this energy. So, these can be very profound. And sometimes people will have like these phobias. And I'm going to give you an example.
Sure.
My own daughter. My daughter is a fitness freak. She is a power lifter. She is 5 foot tall and a little tiny terror. She can deadlift 300 pounds, or she could when she was competing, right? She's tiny. She, I looked at her one day, and I saw, instead of her, because like I said, I astral project into time and space, and I knew I was in Chicago in a morgue, and it's like there's something called claircognizance where you just know, right? So I know I'm standing in a morgue in Chicago, and I look at this man, and he's an overweight detective. He's got his hand on his jacket. His jacket's back, and the gun he's wearing is showing, and he's talking to the the guy that I guess does the autopsies. And so they're talking, and I noticed that there's bodies, and they're on metal gurneys, and they're wrapped in black. And of course, it's black body bags. And so I pop back, and I look at my daughter, and I said, Megan, have you ever wanted to be a detective? Oh, yeah, Mom. Yeah, I'm thinking about it. And I said, have you ever thought about living in Chicago? And she said, Chi-town? Yes, Mom, I've thought about moving there. And what's really interesting about this, she's working on a master's right now in forensics psychology because she wants to work with the criminal mind. How interesting. But this is what's really interesting, too, is that she had a fear when she was a baby, when she was like 2, 3, 4 years old. If you would take out a big black garbage bag, like you go and pick up leaves in, and shake it, she would cry. She would go and hide. And I realized when I was standing there, why? Because those bodies were in black body bags and look quite a bit like those black trash bags. So we can bring in phobias like that into our lives from past lives. So connecting with those lives can actually take that away. It's almost like an instant healing. I've seen it. It's amazing. But what I would do if I were you, Bruce, since you're interested in this, is I would find someone like myself who makes sure that they are qualified. Hypnosis does not have a national governing board. So there are people that have absolutely no training, have seen it a couple of times on YouTube, and now they're out there, which freaks me out because anybody who's done this for a long time, like I have, knows that you can find somebody in very emotional distress, because think about it, they are reliving their death. They may be reliving losing a child. So you need someone who is trained to be able to get you in, get the information from this life that you need, and be able to bring you back with all of that information without all of that pain. And so, so find someone who is a consulting hypnotist. I always recommend the National Guild of Hypnotists. They do amazing training, but also QHHRT, is that what it's called? Where they focus on nothing but really past life type of stuff is a good one also. So you need I would recommend getting some help and having someone that knows what they're doing to bring you in so that you can go to that lifetime and explore it yourself is important. It's worth the money.
And we've had on the program before a local woman, Casey Constant. She's really good at that as well. So Bruce, if you're interested, you can do some research, or you can, I can give you some names as well, or if you reach out to whomever you feel like. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, you do have to be aware of who you're talking to, don't you, in those situations, because this stuff is very serious, and you could do harm to people if you're not going to the right people who are qualified, right?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, think of it this way. You are allowing somebody into the deepest recesses of your psyche, because when you are in hypnosis, people really think, some people think that it will make you do things that you don't want to do. Believe it or not, you can't do that. If somebody is a very religious person, I don't care how deep into hypnosis they are, I could not ask them and expect it to happen, to give them the suggestion to spit on a cross. It's not going to happen. All right.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah, the show's going by very quickly. We got to take another break here. When we come back, we're gonna talk a little bit more about the book. Anything on your mind, folks, put it in the comments. This is a great conversation. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to GhostBox Radio on AM 950. Greg Bakun here. Like you, I love good, fresh, delicious food. So I want to tell you about this treasure in Roseville called Maverick's Real Roast Beef. Mavericks has the best roast beef sandwiches I've ever had, made fresh every order. Add fries or onion rings dropped in the fryer when ordered, and you have a winning combination. Mavericks Real Roast Beef has a lot more than roast beef, so check out their website, mavericksbeef.com, or check out their restaurant on Lexington in Roseville. Greg Bakun here. I love historic tours of Minneapolis and seeing everything it has to offer. But if you know me, I like to include a little spooky in my tours, which is why I found the perfect combination. Minneapolis Trolley Tours does this amazing candlelight ghost tour that you have to check out. It's an extremely immersive experience. It's a trolley trip that starts out at a haunted mansion, traveling around Minneapolis locations, exposing ghost stories that the public and business owners would rather left untold. Then a tour of the aforementioned haunted mansion where ghosts of past residents from the 1800s reside, plus a lot of surprises to discover. Next, experience Gertrude's After Hours. Did I mention Gertrude is the mansion's most famous ghost? Maybe she'll show up. And you finish up the tour at Gertrude's Lounge in the haunted basement of the mansion with refreshments and Q&A. The trolleys are climate controlled and the mansion is restored to perfection. Check out MinneapolisTrolleyTours.com for more information. Are you one of thousands of individuals who know you have psychic abilities but don't know how to tap into your higher self? Refined Divine is an extremely gifted psychic medium who offers classes that can help you reach your goals. Refined Divine holds classes Monday and Thursday at her 2 locations and via Zoom. Classes consist of manifestation, learning psychic abilities, shadow work, and healing trauma. Refined Divine has helped thousands, and she can help you.
This is Psychic Medium Deb. You can go to refineddivinepsychic.com.
Greg Bakun here. It's nice to get out of the Twin Cities and take some travel excursion to some great locations. Minnesota has so much to offer, which is why I love traveling down to Wabasha and staying at the historic Anderson House Hotel. Opened in 1856, this beautiful hotel offers comfortable accommodations, has a delicious restaurant, and even a speakeasy in the basement to unwind with a drink. Located next to the Mississippi River and on Main Street, there is a lot of sightseeing and shopping to do too. To get more information, go to theAndersonHouseHotel.com. And join me tomorrow on GhostBox Radio with Greg Bakun. As I mentioned last night when we were talking about angels, I said, Thursday when we do the replay, I'm going to go back to 2022 here. And because we talked about angels when we're going into hospice and whatnot, I'm going to play what is perhaps one of my most famous episodes of the show, where I am joined by an anonymous caregiver, and she explains some of the haunted and paranormal experiences she experienced working at the hospice to her patients that were transitioning into to the next phase of their existence. It's such a fascinating conversation, and it's one that you don't want to miss. And then Friday, we're going to do Casual Friday. So, we're going to finish up the week with some fun and some conversation and whatnot. My guest tonight, as we are rapidly approaching the end of the show here. I mean, we have some time left, but it's going by pretty quickly. We have with us tonight author Pat Bussard O'Keefe. She has written the book Appalachian Granny Witch Magick, Magick and Musings of an Appalachian Mountain Witch. Like I said earlier, it's available on, if you go and order it from your local bookstore to make sure that they're still getting some business. You want to keep them going, you can go to Barnes and Noble, but you can also go to GhostBox Radio, GhostBox Book Club, and use the Amazon affiliated link, which directly helps our show, which we'd really appreciate. Also, what I did not mention, I want to, is draw you over to her website, grannywitch.com. Check out, because she's talking about all sorts of things that she is working on as well. And we really haven't gotten too much into things, but that's okay, because it's been such a fantastic conversation. And I'm hoping, we still have plenty of time left, but I'm hoping that you'll come back sometime and we can keep these conversations going, because there's so much fun just to talk about and kind of share theories and stuff as well. I really enjoy that. Awesome. Thank you. Now, if we're talking about the book itself, and Ed, one of the things that, and please do not be offended when I say this, because I think from, a very out of sync sort of person who doesn't live in the area, in the book it says, sit for a spell with Pat Bussard O'Keefe as she weaves the magic of her ancestors into stories and spells that are special as the mountains they are from. And that to me is just like, that's because these are a beautiful place. You grew up in a beautiful area, but from a naive outsider point of view, we also hear stories of all sorts of, that it's a kind of a strange area. Is that, I'm just kind of curious, what are some of the most ridiculous Appalachian superstitions that you've run across? Well, the thing is, we are superstitious people, and so I would not call them ridiculous, because I really abide by them. Sure. Like my granny, we had rocking chairs. Everybody had a rocking chair, and it was passed down, because you would take that rocking chair and that's how you would get your babies to sleep, right? Yeah. And so so a rocking chair was really important. It was an important piece of furniture in any household. Well, the neck of the woods, as they say, where I came from, Granny, she'd get on to you. If you put your hand on the back of that rocking chair, she said, now get your hand off of that, because you could accidentally rock it. Because what that meant, if you rocked an empty rocking chair, it means that you were calling death to your doorstep. So you didn't want to do that, right? So that was a real taboo kind of thing. And of course, we lived in the South. And so we had what they call Hank blue, and they would paint the top of the porch, if it had an overhang, and most of them did, they'd paint that specific blue. Now, they said it was to keep the bugs and the mosquitoes away, because it would help with that. But the reality was, it was also supposed to help keep the ghost away. So they would do that. Lord, if you go into the woods, you'd want to be out by dark. You would. Yeah. Even hunters. There's some hunters that have been deep in these woods, and they try to come out, when the sun comes down. Now, if you're in the woods,
and you hear whistling, don't whistle back, because that could be the devil trying to find you. All right.
Yeah.
And if somebody calls your name, don't try to go find that, because that may be an energy, and they call them by many names, that is trying to lead you off the path and further into the mountains. We've got so many animals, like an old hoot owl. If you hear a hoot owl during the day, it's bad luck. But if you see a hoot owl during the day, it means death could come a knocking. Now, a lot of our old superstitions did have to do with death, and we had some unusual ones. Like, it was believed, and my granny told me this, and it's really interesting because a lot of people in other parts of the Appalachian would leave things with the dead, like pictures. Not my people. No, no. Granny told me early on, she said, Pat, never leave anything with the dead because they can follow you home.
Oh,
That was pretty terrifying, right?
yeah, that would be absolutely.
That's right. And so you wouldn't do that. Now, this isn't particularly a superstition, but the way that we buried our dead, we would have the 3 days of mourning, and they'd call it a wake above ground. And it wouldn't be uncommon for some families to actually have a last drink with the corpse.
Mhm.
When the kids were in bed and the women folk were in bed after a hard day, the men folk might get together and prop the corpse up and have that last drink with the corpse. So, because it was a last goodbye, it was a last farewell. People in the mountains and poor people all over the country, but in the mountains too, they might go and get a photographer for the first time in that person's life. They would have their picture taken. Postmortem photography.
Sure,
And some
sure.
people say, well, that didn't exist. It certainly did exist. There's actually advertisements that are still, we have copies of, that show that, because photographers are actually advertising, we'll get there before there's stiff. I kid you not. I kid you not. Because, in the cities, that was a way to do that. So people were very, very poor, but if they could muster the money, they'd want that picture to remember. And I'll be honest with you, I remember people taking pictures of our, someone who had passed into the 80s, in coffins. And I'll tell you, death is a social event in the mountains, and by that I mean when somebody has passed, everybody comes.
Yep.
It's just what you do. Um, but we've got the woolly worm. You look at the woolly worm, how much black is on it. The more black on a woolly worm, the worse that winter is going to be. It's kind of our little mini, uh, groundhog that
Yeah,
tells
yeah.
us how bad it's going to be. So I could just go on and on, but we have many superstitions in these mountains. And to be honest with you, like I said, I kind of take them seriously. These mountains, I want your listeners to know this. These mountains are considered one of the oldest mountain ranges on the face of the earth. They are so old that it's estimated that they were as tall or taller than the Swiss Alps, but because of the time that they have been in existence, I think it's like 1.5 billion years, something like that. They have worn away, little by little, until we have the beautiful mountains that we have today. There's power in that age. These
Yep.
mountains are literally older than bones, and anybody's bones, and that includes dinosaurs.
Yeah.
These are very, very old mountains, and that means very, very old energy. We have a lot of elemental energy in these mountains. And for people that don't know what that is, people in the old country would call this kind of energy like dwarves, or they would call them fairies,
Very.
elves,
Yep.
trolls. I mean, they had different, but it's elemental energy and that's connected to the earth.
So there's so much here. But one of the things that I find very fascinating is the night whistlers. And has anyone ever I'm making up my own words now. Had anyone made any sort of correlation between night whistlers and, say, like Wendigos, that they are whistlers, and that they're not ghosts, and they're not necessarily, they might be more flesh than ghosts. I'm just curious if that's ever been thought about at all.
Well, I'm sure that that has been discussed for me because of the way I was raised. And it's always about worldview, isn't it?
Yeah.
And what we are raised with. So, being from Appalachia, being raised as I was, it really would not matter because what we're being told is that whatever it is, it's evil,
Yeah.
and to stay away from it, right?
Yeah.
But we have people in these mountains that swear that they have seen fairies. I mean, the fae is a very important component of the, and I don't even want to call it mythos, but some people would, the mythos that was taken from the old countries and brought into the mountains. And we have people from everywhere, but primarily it was Scotch, Irish, German, Scotch, Irish, German. I'm trying to think, and a couple. We do have African American that came into these mountains, and I'll tell you why. Because everybody, when they landed on the coast, it was like, oh wow, we have this flat land, and we're going to go ahead, and this is our land. So later people and poorer people went into the mountains. Well, when they got here, they looked around and said, oh wow, look at this. This reminds me of the Highlands of Scotland. So
Sure.
I'm just gonna, this is like home. We know how to survive here, and they stopped here. This is where my ancestors chose to live.
That makes a lot of sense. We have about 4 minutes left here. Have you ever experienced hearing whistling or your name being called?
Oh yeah, I have heard my name called. Absolutely, I haven't heard the whistling, but I have heard my name called. Yes, and it's really interesting because when I heard it, it was like loud but a whisper. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's
Sure.
what it sounded like. It was like it was loud, but it was also a whisper. Anyway, it was interesting. Then, if you're going to ask me, no, I went in the opposite direction.
Yeah, I figured, because I mean, especially as you were saying that you really respect what these are, you're not going to be answering because you don't answer, right? I mean, that's the whole point. You don't answer your name being called, or go
That's right.
looking
You
to see
don't.
who says it.
That's right. You don't answer and you don't go looking because, again, it's the whole idea of putting out energy, right? Connecting with whatever it is, just like leaving something with the dead that my grandmother was afraid of, that could follow you home. When you do that, you are actually pushing your energy of whatever it is, and it's like a homing beacon. So, yes, you just ignore it, turn around, and leave.
Just get out of there. I don't
Get
blame
out
you.
of there. Yes.
So we have about 3 minutes left. Are you able to talk a little bit about some of the stuff you're working on real fast?
Yes, right now I am working on a documentary. It's called There's Magic in the Mountains. And I got that title. My grandmother and I were in the kitchen one day, and she was looking out towards the mountains. And she said that. She looked at me and she said, Pat, there's magic in the mountains. And so that's the title of it. It's about Appalachian Granny women and their gifts. And what I'm doing, I'm interviewing their descendants, and they are sharing the stories of their ancestor who was a granny witch or a granny woman, and we are preserving those stories. It's very important because my generation really is the last generation that was very close with these very, my great grandmother and my grandmother. That generation is being forgotten. And so what I want to do is preserve those stories, and they are fascinating stories.
Oh, I can't wait for this. Do you know when this is going to be? Do you have an idea roughly when it
Yes.
will be done?
Yes, it's actually premiering in Bristol, Virginia at the Legacy 14 Theaters on September 12th, 2026. So it's coming really right up. It'll be here before you know it.
Congratulations on that, first of all.
Thank you.
That sounds amazing, and I gotta see this. This is so fascinating. Over at grannywitch.com, do you have a bibliography of some of the books that you've written as well for people to check out to see what else you've done?
Well, actually, grannywitch.com is the website for the documentary. So if you want to know more about the documentary, I would love for you to go there and find out more. This is definitely a passion project. If you want to know more about me, it is Pat O'Keefe without the thing.com. So
Okay.
yeah.
That sounds good. No, that sounds good. I followed that. It's all
Yeah,
good.
okay.
Once again, the book we're talking about tonight is Appalachian Granny Witch Magick, Magick and Musings of an Appalachian Mountain Witch, which this is I'm looking forward to fully reading this, and I hope that you all do as well. Once again, you can get this, order it from a local bookseller. Try to keep them in business, Barnes & Noble. Also, if you're feeling very generous, go over to GhostBoxRadio.com, Ghostbox Book Club, and use the Amazon affiliated link that I have for the hardcover, paperback, and Kindle versions. There is so much to unravel here. Pat, you're gonna come back on the show, right? I mean, that's
Absolutely. I look forward to the invitation.
that they'll be sooner than you think. I'm pretty sure about that. Really appreciate it. Pat, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
And folks, once again, go get the book, go to grannywitch.com, check out for the documentary. And then once again, tomorrow we are going to be playing one of our most famous episodes, our caregiver who talks about what she's seen with her patients right before death. Don't go anywhere. Join us Thursday, join us Friday. Everyone, have a good night.
Hi, it's Matt McNeil. Listen to the Matt McNeil Show from 3 until 5 weekday afternoons right here on the progressive voice of Minnesota, AM 950 KTNF, St. Louis Park, Minneapolis, St.
Are we?
There we go. We should be
Okay,
clear.
we're off.